Welcome to the Telltales channel.
They gave my 3-year-old a dollar store doll missing a leg and said, "That's what happens when your mom's a disappointment to us." My daughter's smile dropped. My sister's kids laughed with their new bikes behind them. But the laughter stopped when I showed them their gifts and said, "You won't be getting these." And then I knew they didn't like me. That's never been a secret. But I didn't think they'd stoop low enough to humiliate a 3-year-old. Christmas morning started with snow. Not the soft storybook kind, more like slush and ice that made the roads miserable. But I still got Alina dressed in her sparkly red dress and white tights, little boots she picked herself. She'd been talking about Grandma's tree for weeks. I even let her carry the homemade ornament she made in preschool. I should have known better. We got to my parents' place around 9. My sister's SUV was already parked out front, engine still warm. Inside I could hear shouting and laughter, the kind that always meant my sister's boys were showing off. Sure enough, they were outside in the backyard riding brand new bikes that still had the tags on them. Neon green and metallic blue. One of them yelled something about Santa bringing exactly what I asked for. My parents were filming it like it was some commercial. Alina tugged on my coat. She didn't understand why she didn't have a bike too. I told her to be patient. Santa leaves gifts inside too. The living room looked like something out of a Pottery Barn catalog. Tree lit up, music playing, piles of gifts wrapped in expensive paper. But nothing, not a single box, had my daughter's name on it. I'd sent my mom $500 in early December. Told her I was swamped with work travel and asked her to help get some gifts for Alina. Things she'd like. A little kitchen set, some books, maybe one of those dolls with changeable outfits. She said she knew exactly what to get. I guess what she meant was absolutely nothing. Eventually, after the boys were finished unwrapping their 5th or 6th gifts, my mom handed Alina a small, crushed-looking box. It wasn't even under the tree. She pulled it out from the sideboard like it had been forgotten. The wrapping paper looked like it had already been used once. Alina opened it slowly. It was a plastic doll. Dollar store quality, maybe worse. It was missing a leg. No packaging, no accessories. Just a broken toy wrapped in disappointment. Alina blinked. She looked up at me. Then my mom said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "That's what happens when your mom's a disappointment to us." My sister burst out laughing. Her kids started laughing too, even though they didn't understand why. It was just something cruel, and cruel things always got a reaction in that house. And there was my daughter holding that doll like she was trying to figure out what she'd done wrong. I crouched next to her and told her something quietly. I didn't cry. Neither did she. We just stood up together. What none of them knew was that I hadn't brought in our gifts yet. My car was parked down the street. In the trunk were 2 large black bags filled with wrapped presents. All hand-picked, all expensive. Designer perfume for my mom. A $900 drone for my sister's oldest, a leather tech backpack for my dad, custom monogram jackets for everyone. I'd asked them weeks ago what they wanted. They'd sent me lists like they always do. I didn't ask for a dime. I just paid. I carried everything inside in silence. The room went dead quiet when I placed the bags by the tree. My mom's eyes lit up first like she'd won something. My sister moved closer, already reaching toward one of the gift tags. I stopped her. I said, "You won't be getting these." He laughed at first like I was joking. Then she looked at my face and stopped. My mom started saying something about not making a scene. My dad stood up but didn't say anything. My sister's husband just looked down like he always does, pretending not to be part of anything. I picked up Alina and walked out. Nobody followed us. Nobody said sorry. And not one of them noticed that I took all the gifts with me. I didn't respond to anyone for 2 full days. Not a text. Not a call. I focused on my daughter, her normal routine, cartoons in the morning, pasta for dinner, bath time at the same hour. She didn't ask about the doll again. She left it on a chair in her room and never touched it. That somehow hurt more than if she cried. Meanwhile, my phone stayed face down. On the 3rd day, my sister finally cracked. She texted asking if I was done throwing a tantrum. She added a laughing emoji like that would soften it. I didn't answer. An hour later, she sent another message saying the boys were confused about why their aunt stormed out on Christmas. Still nothing from me. My mom waited until the evening. Her message was longer. She said I embarrassed her. Said I ruined Christmas. Said Alina was too young to understand and I was projecting my own issues onto a child. Then she added that line, "She's used my entire life. After all we've done for you." I stared at that message for a long time before locking my phone and setting it down. They really believed they were the victims. On the 4th day my dad called. I let it ring. He left a voicemail saying everyone was upset and asking why I was being so cold. No apology. No mention of my daughter. Just confusion that the money had stopped flowing. That night I opened my trunk. The gifts were still there. Perfectly wrapped. Untouched. I brought them inside and lined them up in my living room. Each one had a name. Each one represented another time I'd tried to buy peace. I realized something uncomfortable standing there. I'd spent more time planning their happiness than my own. I unwrapped them all, fully, one by one. Then I boxed them back up and donated almost everything. A women's shelter, a youth center, a family assistance program. I didn't take pictures. I didn't announce it. I just let it be done. When New Year's rolled around, something shifted. I didn't send my parents their usual grocery transfer. I didn't cover my dad's car insurance. I didn't send my sister the $300 I'd been quietly sending her every week for years to help with expenses. I didn't even realize how automatic it had all become until I stopped. And that's when the panic started. My mom called twice a day. My dad sent short messages asking if everything was okay. My sister suddenly wanted to talk things through. No one mentioned the doll. No one mentioned Alina. Then I heard through someone else. A friend of mine works near the pharmacy my mom uses. She texted me asking if everything was okay at home. Said she overheard my mom arguing over payment, asking if she could pick up half her prescription now and the rest later. My mom has never lived paycheck to paycheck. She just never lived without me either. I sat with that information longer than I expected. I waited for guilt. It didn't come. About a week later, my sister showed up at my door unannounced. She looked different. Tired. Less confident. She asked if we could talk. I didn't invite her in. We stood there while my daughter watched cartoons behind me. She said my parents were stressed. Said they didn't realize how much I helped. Said I was taking things too far over one moment. She told me family doesn't keep score like this. I told her family doesn't humiliate toddlers either. She asked if I still had the gifts. I told her no. I told her exactly where they went. For the first time, she didn't have anything smart to say. Before she left, she said something that stuck with me. He said I was changing. That I was becoming cruel. I closed the door and locked it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one chasing their approval. And they could feel it. The first real sign of trouble came quietly. An email from my dad. No greeting. No explanation. Just a forwarded notice with a giant red warning across the top. Final utility bill. Disconnection scheduled. The amount circled in bold. $432.66. That was usually something I paid without thinking. A few taps on my phone and their lights stayed on. Not this time. I stared at the email for a long time. I didn't reply. I didn't pay it either. Then came the calls. First my mom asking about how long I planned to keep this up. I didn't answer. Then my sister. She left a voicemail trying to sound casual, talking about how the kids missed me, how things were a little tight since Christmas, and how she hoped we could just get back to normal soon. Back to normal. Where I paid. And they pretended not to notice. That same week my dad called again twice in one day. He left another voicemail, his voice low like he didn't want my mom to hear him. He said something about the mortgage being a mess and the bank starting to ask questions. He didn't say it outright, but I understood. I'd stopped sending the extra $600 a month I'd been covering on their house for the past 2 years. He just assumed I'd never stop. But I did. Then a friend of mine sent me a picture. My mom behind the counter of a gas station convenience store not far from their neighborhood. Wearing a blue vest. She looked smaller, somehow older. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I felt bad. I didn't. Not really. But because for years she told me that working retail was for women who'd failed at life. She used to say that kind of thing while I handed her envelopes of cash for her trips, for her new bags, for her hair appointments. Now she was folding lottery tickets and scanning beer cans. Because she didn't have my help anymore. The silence from me wasn't just financial now. I didn't come around. I didn't call. I didn't answer their messages. I was done. Until one day my sister showed up again. No warning. Just stood on my porch with her arms crossed and said she needed to talk. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She launched right into it. The boys were upset. My parents were stressed. The electricity had been cut for a full day last week. And then she said something that stuck with me. You're really going to let us fall apart just to prove a point? I told her I wasn't proving a point. I was just removing myself from the game. I told her none of them ever respected me, even as they relied on me for everything. That they couldn't humiliate my daughter in front of a Christmas tree and then still expect me to pay for the decorations next year. She called me selfish. Then she asked if I still had any of the gifts. I told her where they went. The shelter downtown, the same one I used to volunteer at when Mom said I was wasting my time. Her face dropped. Then she said, "You're starting to enjoy this, aren't you?" I didn't answer. But she wasn't wrong. Not in the gloating, rubbing it in kind of way. But in the deep, quiet way of someone who had spent years being treated like a failure while single-handedly holding up the people doing the mocking. I was finally free from that. and I could breathe. After that, things moved fast. My dad's car got repossessed. My mom's credit card was declined at a local market. I didn't hear about that one directly. It came from another friend who worked there. She said my mom had walked out without her groceries, red-faced and furious. Then I got an email from my sister, 4 paragraphs blaming me for the stress on their marriage. Said her husband was burned out, trying to make up for the money I used to send. Said their youngest had to quit a sport because they couldn't afford the equipment. She ended it with, "You're hurting innocent people just because you can't let go of a grudge." I didn't respond. I knew exactly who was innocent. And it wasn't the adults who let my daughter hold a broken doll while their kids unwrapped bikes and laughed. They wanted me to feel guilty. I didn't. What I felt was something closer to clarity. Because the longer I stayed quiet, the more they revealed themselves. The more they panicked. The more they begged. Not for forgiveness, not for understanding, but for money. I wasn't their daughter. I was their ATM. And now the ATM was out of order. It could have ended there. They could have quietly dealt with the fallout, the bills, the silence. They could have finally understood what it felt like to be left out, dismissed, forgotten. But they didn't want to understand. They wanted revenge, the petty, manipulative kind they've always excelled at. Started with a Facebook post. My mom doesn't even know how to use email properly, but suddenly she figured out how to write a multi-paragraph public post for the world to see. No names, of course, just a long, emotional rant about how painful it is when your own child turns her back on the family after everything you've done, and how she was now working nights just to afford groceries while her daughter lived in some big house, too proud to help. The comments came pouring in. People I hadn't spoken to in years, old family friends, church ladies, cousins. They all chimed in with the same garbage. "You deserve better, so sorry this happened to you. Kids today don't understand sacrifice." Some even tagged me. One of them asked if I was okay and told me to remember where I came from. As if I ever forgot. But what made me pause was one comment from my sister. It said, "She's always taken from you, Mom. Maybe now she's showing her true colors." That was the moment I realized this wasn't desperation anymore. This was coordinated. They were trying to rewrite the story. And they didn't stop there. They started reaching out to people in my life. A friend of mine texted me saying my mom had called her, saying she was worried about me, saying I'd been acting erratic and cutting everyone off. Then a coworker forwarded me a message my sister had sent. Vague accusations that I was not well, that maybe someone should check on me. That's when it hit me. They weren't just trying to guilt me back into their orbit. They were trying to make me look unstable. But what pushed me over wasn't what they said about me. It was what they said about Alina. Buried in the Facebook thread, someone asked how the little one was doing, clearly referring to my daughter. My mom replied, "We gave her a sweet little doll for Christmas, but she didn't even say thank you. Looks like she's learning from her mother." A switch flipped. They humiliated her once. I swallowed that. But now they were publicly calling my 3-year-old ungrateful? Pretending like they were the ones hurt? Framing her, a toddler, as part of some emotional scam? I wasn't staying quiet anymore. I didn't make a public post. I didn't argue in the comments. I just sent private messages to a handful of the people who commented, the ones with the most to say. I told them the real story. That I had given my parents money specifically for my daughter's Christmas gift, and that money went to my sister's kids. That Alina got a broken one-leg doll while the boys got brand new bikes. That my mom said, in front of her, "That's what happens when your mom's a disappointment to us." I included a photo. The doll in Alina's lap. Her face confused. Hurt. I didn't have to send anything else. By morning my mom's post was gone. Just wiped clean like it never happened. No follow-up, no clarification, no apology. But something else happened 2 days later. A package arrived at my door. No return address. Just Alina's name written in thick marker across the top. Inside was a perfectly wrapped gift, gold foil paper tied with real ribbon. And inside that was an American Girl doll. The exact one my daughter had circled in a catalog at the start of December. Still in the box. Brand new. Accessories, outfits, everything. There was a note. "We hope you like this one better. Love, Grandma and Grandpa." No apology. No mention of the other doll. Just damage control. Alina opened it and smiled. She looked at me and said, "She has both her legs this time." Then she ran off to show her new doll to her stuffed animals. I didn't say anything. I just sat there holding the box the doll came in, thinking about how far they were willing to go to keep their version of the story intact. They didn't send the doll because they were sorry. They sent it because they realized they had finally lost control. But they were wrong if they thought that doll fixed anything. I didn't send a thank you. I didn't text them. I didn't even let Alina call. They wanted to rewrite the story, to cast me as the villain, as unstable, as selfish. But I had something they didn't. Distance. Peace. And a daughter who now knew that love doesn't come with strings attached. It started slowly. I think they assumed I'd cool off, that I'd eventually miss them enough to come crawling back like I always had. But weeks went by and the silence held. That's when the tone changed. The first message that made me pause came from my dad. It wasn't angry or defensive or trying to guilt me. Just one line. "I think I finally understand why you walked out." I didn't reply, but I saved the message. Then out of nowhere I got a card in the mail. Not a text. Not a phone call. A handwritten card from my mother. Someone who hadn't physically written a thing in years unless it was a grocery list. The card said, "Barbara, we made a mess of things. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I know I can't undo what we said and did, but I hope you'll let us try to make it right. We miss Alina. We miss you. We'll do better, I promise. Love, Mom." No excuses. No blaming. No manipulation. That alone almost made me cry. Almost. I didn't respond to that either. I needed to see how far they'd go. Because they weren't just saying sorry anymore. They were begging. A week after that I came home from work to find 2 boxes on my porch. No delivery company. Just boxes. One addressed to me, the other to Alina. No note. But I didn't need one to know who they were from. Inside Alina's box was a custom princess bedspread, her favorite animated characters embroidered into soft pink fabric, with her name stitched along the edge. Beneath it were more gifts. Books, puzzles, a music box that played You Are My Sunshine. All brand new. All expensive. All meant to fix something money never could. Mine. A necklace. Not just any necklace. The one I'd pointed out in passing to my sister almost 2 years ago. Rose gold, minimalist with a tiny diamond set off center. I remember saying it was pretty, that it reminded me of strength because it was delicate but not fragile. They'd bought it. After years of giving me soap sets and kitchen towels like I was some distant coworker at a holiday party, they gave me something personal. And still I didn't reply. Because the truth was, I liked watching them unravel. Not because I'm cruel, but because for the first time in my life, they were facing the weight of what they'd done. I had spent years being the provider, the fixer, the scapegoat, the afterthought. I paid their bills, funded their birthdays, covered their emergencies, then got mocked behind my back. They thought they could hurt my child and still have access to the wallet. Still expect the next handout to arrive on schedule. But I wasn't the same Barbara anymore. And they were starting to see that. A few days after the boxes arrived, my sister texted again. Said the boys were asking why I didn't come to their soccer games anymore. That my parents were trying. That they were different now. He ended it with, "Can we meet? Just you and me, please." I agreed. But not at her house. Not at mine either. We met at a coffee shop halfway between us. Neutral ground. She was already sitting when I walked in. Looked older than I remembered, worn down. She smiled when she saw me, that hopeful kind of smile people use when they're afraid to talk first. I sat. She didn't waste time. She said everything I never thought I'd hear. That they used me. That she knew they took advantage of me. That they never respected what I did for the family because they thought I'd never stop. That they crossed a line they didn't know how to come back from. And then she said something that genuinely surprised me. She said Mom cried when she saw the photo of Alina with that broken doll. She said she's never felt smaller. I didn't say anything for a while. Just stirred my coffee and waited to see if she had more. She did. She said they talked about paying me back. Not just the $500 but everything. She said they were thinking about selling a few things. Her husband's motorcycle, my dad's coin collection, even some old jewelry of my mom's. I raised an eyebrow at that. I wasn't holding my breath, but hearing them even consider sacrificing something, anything, for me? That was new. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Are you coming for Easter?" I looked her in the eye. I said if they want me there they can start by wiring me the $500 they owe Alina. Not a check. Not cash. A direct deposit. And a note addressed to her. With the words "We're sorry" written clearly. She stared at me. Then nodded. I left without saying goodbye. And when I got home for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. They were starting to grovel. And part of me, the part that had swallowed every insult for years, started to enjoy it a little more than I should have. The money showed up in my account 3 days later. Exactly $500. Labeled, for Alina. No note. No message. Just cold, quiet repayment. A tiny transaction, but it hit like a cannon. Because they'd never paid me back for anything before. Not even once. Later that night an envelope arrived. Hand-delivered. Inside was a card addressed to Alina. My mom had written it in blocky, almost childlike handwriting. "We're sorry for the doll, sweet girl. You deserved better. We'll do better." It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase what happened. But I read it to Alina anyway. She nodded and said, "Okay." Just like that. 3 years old and already more emotionally mature than half the people in my family. The next week Easter came. They waited. My phone buzzed all morning. First my dad, then my sister, then my mom. They sent photos of the decorated table, of the food, of the egg hunt. Even a spot on the porch set up with a basket that had Alina's name on it. I didn't reply. I didn't go. And I didn't feel guilty. For the first time the pressure was on them. They had to prove they were safe to come back to. They had to earn trust. And I was in no rush to hand it over. But something unexpected happened. The silence started to bother me, not in the usual way but in a way I hadn't expected. They weren't asking for anything anymore. No requests for money. No last-minute favors. No grocery lists, no, "Can you help us with," texts. Nothing. And the quiet, the thing I had longed for, started to feel eerie. I didn't miss them. I missed what I hoped they could be. I missed the version of a family I built in my head every time I bailed them out and told myself it was love. I'd become something I swore I never would. Someone who enjoyed watching them crawl. Not because I was cruel, but because I had been quiet for so long, and now their begging finally filled a space that had been empty for decades. But it didn't feel good for long. I caught myself rereading their apologies. Playing voicemails more than once. Telling myself I was just being cautious, but deep down I knew I was starting to like their shame a little too much. Scared me. Because that's who they were to me for years. People who fed off power, who hurt and watched for a reaction. And now I was doing the same. I was becoming them in reverse. So I pulled back. No more tests. No more ultimatums. I stopped waiting for them to mess up again just so I could punish them for it. I stopped watching them scramble to earn forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. I stopped checking the family group chat I never answered anyway. Instead I started building something new. Smaller. Quiet. Just me and Alina. We planted flowers on the porch. We made pancakes every Sunday. We started new traditions, just us. No strings. No shame. No broken dolls. And slowly I felt the edge of all that anger begin to dull. They still call sometimes. They ask if we're coming by. If they can see her. I say not yet. Not now. Maybe one day. But for the first time I don't feel like I owe them anything. Not time. Not money. Not my daughter's joy. Not even an explanation. And the best part? They've stopped asking for a few $100s here and there.
Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.